folks, welcome to another reading. Today I am taking a look, and I've got some questions over here about why TikTok is really being banned and whether this is actually a platform that we should be concerned about. Is it actually reasonable to ban this? So I've got three questions. My first question is, why is TikTok actually really being banned, aside from what we're being told in the mainstream media? How likely is it that it will actually be lights out, unusable in the United States? Because there's a lot of stuff that could happen between now and the point that it's actually legitimately banned. I think that I saw on the BBC that the United States has given ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, like 9 months to divest itself of the Chinese authorities, or whoever's like in charge, whoever we're concerned about. They've given them some degree of time, the better part of a year, to actually like separate. So there might still be a chance that it is still usable, but we'll see, okay? My third question is, should people actually be cautious of using TikTok, right? Or is it just a whole bunch of fear-mongering? Okay, so for the first question, why is this actually being banned apart from what we're being told in the mainstream media? I've shuffled and laid out my Lenormand cards into a portrait spread. This is a 3x3, a 9 card Lenormand spread. Right away, I've got child. That's in the center of this particular spread. And because this platform markets itself and incentivizes children using it so heavily, I think that's why this appears here. Literally children, and also people who just aren't aware. Not because they don't want to be, but the child card in Lenormand also points to naivete, unintentional or blissful ignorance, right? It doesn't matter. It's interesting. In my particular card, child is facing heart, which tells me that there is some degree of compassion for what people who are not aware, or actual children, are, how they're being used when it comes to this particular platform. Okay, now just now I'm getting that the United States is concerned about what people in China, the authority figures in China, are picking up from children here in the U.S. And I saw that India has already banned the app. So it's not without reason that these kinds of, this TikTok is being banned. It's not, so far from what I've seen, it's not without cause. We'll continue to talk, but with heart, child, and birds, I feel like somebody's listening in on what children here in the United States are doing, and this choice is being made out of genuine concern, genuine compassion, and love for the well-being of children and people who just aren't aware. That can be adults or teenagers or children, it doesn't matter. That's the central theme. I want to take a look at the four corners. We've got crossroad and animus on the top row. Right away, that tells me that I suspect that this is Joe Biden. This is meant to signify Joe Biden, as well as a bunch of other politicians. Animus isn't just about man. It's about people who are in traditionally masculine roles. And I know, like, that can get really kind of stupid when we talk about gender identity and who can be in a role and who can't be. But politicians are stereotypically, in the United States, thought to be masculine, or at least in positions of authority that aren't traditionally seen as masculine. Okay, so right away, a choice made by a masculine figure. This animus lands on the house of the ship, which is about a politician who's been at this for a decently long time. And also, this particular masculine figure, possibly Joe Biden, possibly others, have been studying and watching this particular issue for a while. And it's just now, with the crossroad landing on top of the rider, that this has been a quickly made choice. Something about how much information they've gathered has given them the conclusions that we need to shut this down sooner rather than later instead of just letting it go. Because I was thinking about how, like, YouTube has some harmful content, maybe not explicitly so, but implicitly harmful content that is marketed towards children. Okay, I'm about to go on a bit of a tangent. When I was growing up, we had Sesame Street, we had Barney, we had Mr. Rogers. And I know that parents bitched and complained about shows like Barney, for instance, because they hated it. But the thing about those 3 shows in particular, and others, is that there were child psychologists, teachers, parents. There were teams of people behind these TV shows that said, children need this, children need that, children don't need to see this, children do need to see this in order to give them security, a firm, stable understanding of their colors, their shapes, their numbers, whatever have you. YouTube channels, generally speaking, by and large, don't have that. And I'm not saying that all of them do, but there is plenty of harmful content, even if not harmful, like stupid content, and I hate to put it that way, but there's even like stupid content that doesn't contribute to kids' education the way that Sesame Street did, for instance. Sesame Street, at least back in when I was watching it, had some legitimate research backing up that when children watched Sesame Street on a consistent basis, that they did a better job in school of knowing their numbers, their colors, their shapes, those kinds of like general concepts, for instance. There is none of that in YouTube. But I'm actually getting from TikTok and this spread so far that it's harmful. I'm going to continue to talk. That was the top corner. Crossroad, Animus, sorry for the tangent, but there's a point to be made here since we're talking about kids. On the bottom row, continuing that 4-corner look at everything, this is like the general overview of the topic. I've got Garden and Whip. So this masculine political figure has chosen to, and alongside the public, has chosen to punish this particular platform for behaving this way. Or rather, Garden is about a very public decision being made. So I'm going to take a look at the vertical aspect, which is past, present, and future. We've got Crossroad, Heart, and Garden lining up in the vertical past column. This is a very public choice being made very quickly, and it feels like the public is deceived about what's going on this platform, and that's quite possibly why they're acting out of love, quite possibly. Now, that's one meaning. The other meaning is that these politicians want to put forth a narrative that this is for the good of our children or for the good of people who aren't aware. I'm seeing that with Heart, that lands on the House of House, which is about love of homeland, for instance, love for our country. Again, India has already made a choice for them to ban the platform altogether. So while the public may feel deceived, I feel like as much as the politics here in the United States are really repulsive to me, I feel like there's some genuine, compassionate decision-making here, even if people don't like it. That's in the past. In the present, we've got Scythe, Child, and Cross. This is about suddenly cutting out a burden that the children, that the naive in the audience aren't aware of necessarily. Child, it's interesting, lands on Tree, which of course is a growing audience, for instance. It's also growth of the child. I'm wondering if this platform isn't somehow deeply harmful to children. While I was reading this and getting acquainted with this spread before I turn on the camera, I started to get the sensation of child abuse, that TikTok doesn't do enough to stigmatize the child abuse that goes on in this platform, and in fact, unintentionally, through the algorithm, presents this child abuse in some way to more children viewers. And I'm wondering if some children aren't normalizing what they see in terms of child abuse on the platform. Scythe lands on the House of the Clover, which is about risk, reward, taking something lightheartedly. Definitely about risk reward here. When it lands in this kind of spread alongside choice and animus, this is kind of a risky choice that Joe Biden, other politicians have made in order to ostensibly protect what's going on when it comes to children. There might be some reward too in that some children whom we never get to see, we never get to hear from, but some children might be saved from seeing abusive images, a video, hearing abusive messages, or even seeing child abuse being normalized. But it's interesting. Cross lands on the House of the Coffin, which is about a burden that we don't necessarily see. Of course, the people who are up close and personal to this kind of destructive behavior, they're going to see it. But I don't know that everybody sees it. And in some cases, for the people who are not aware of what's going on, sometimes they don't want to see it. I said earlier, ignorance is bliss. They're the people who deliberately cover their eyes because they don't want to know. And there are other people who just are flat out don't know, not because they don't want to. But this is a burden that is not easily seen. It is repressed. It is held down. And now I'm wondering, why is this being held down? Why is this child abuse being held down? Here is why I've been saying child abuse. In the diagonal that indicates to me future influences, I've got crossroad, child, and whip. And that's where I'm getting the abuse. I'm getting specifically the word punishment. There's some kind of trend when it comes to child abuse, child punishing children, for instance. Please don't quote me on this. I don't have the app or the platform. I don't have an account on the platform. I don't use it or look at it at all. I kind of avoid it, for better or for worse. But this is definitely, Crossroad Child Whip is definitely choosing to protect children from what is featured in this whip: punishment, pain, abuse. There's something here. The intention here is to protect children going forward. With the past influences, the past diagonal, you've got animus, child, and guardian. Public figure wanting to protect children. It's really that simple. And they want to protect people going forward, or at least we're being told that narrative. And I'm getting from Spirit that it's mostly true. Scythe, child, and cross is in the present situation. The future has animus, birds, and whip. I'm seeing politicians in the future, possibly Joe Biden, if he continues to be in office, really, they're going to catch him, so to speak. They're going to punish the people who listen in on the conversations, who pay attention to the trends, and collect data on child abuse imagery. I'm asking Spirit, is this child sexual abuse material? No, it isn't necessarily, not always. But it's a lot of children being pushed down, around, and made to do things that they shouldn't be doing. Not necessarily sexual. Okay, I appreciate that. But definitely I feel like these companies are collecting information on the children of the United States, possibly to sway them towards a particular perspective, whether that's political or not. But I see this being punished in the future, which makes me wonder if we're actually going to be able to, if the TikTok platform is actually going to be usable here in the future. Let me pick up these cards and I'll be right back. Okay, I want to see how likely it is going to be that TikTok is actually going to be unusable as a platform in the United States. Like, will you be able to access it through a VPN? Like, will there be workarounds to getting onto the platform? I'm getting not necessarily. I'm wondering if the United States isn't going to really shut it down. as in like you just can't access it even with something like a VPN or something like that. Let's look. You got the Five of Pentacles in reverse. That's been about going in for help after a hard time. That's about acting. Going in for help. Acting. I should say not acting. Acting on downloads that we've been given, so to speak. Downloads from the universe. So these people are possibly working off of knowledge that other people have given them. It's possible that India has given them information. It's possible that places like Japan? Why did that? Japan? Canada? For whatever reason, the Five Eyes coalition, alliance is coming to mind. It's like the United States has gathered information from our allies about what's going on in the platform, and they are acting on this. With the Hangman in reverse, that's not about like sitting and listening and gathering information. That time is past. We're now like in the action stage where we've got our information, we're moving forward. You know, like the United States has an kind of an uneasy alliance with China in the sense that almost all of our stuff ever made, ever manufactured comes from China. On the other hand, they have a lot of our debt. They take a lot of our recyclable stuff that we don't want to recycle. It's kind of an uneasy alliance here. But in this regard, it feels like something about that alliance is really tightening, like closing down, if you will. I'm getting like a fist like squeezing like a water hose off, and like it stops the water flow on something. Interesting, I said water. This is the Two of Cups. The United States doesn't want information about its children leaking out to the wrong places, and they feel like the Chinese government, the Chinese authorities are absolutely the wrong people to have this information. Taking on a new opportunity, a new chance. I'm wondering for real if TikTok isn't going to be like utterly shut down in the United States, like completely blocked off. Not necessarily soon, but in the future, yes, it might be. I should say it might be. I heard it will be, but it might be better to say it might be because somebody could make a choice. ByteDance could divest itself and send ByteDance over the United States and TikTok becomes a United States property. I don't know. Somebody's choice could change this whole reading. Just be aware. This is a rapidly changing conversation, a rapidly changing situation, and Joe Biden just signed that order to ban it on Thursday, and it's Saturday right now. So, still very much a rapidly evolving situation. This has some childlike energy to do with it. It's going in for help. I'm putting this on top of the Five of Pentacles. It's about going in for help when it comes to taking care of children who are once again, emotionally not prepared to handle the trends that TikTok might be pushing towards them. Harmful trends. I'm getting intelligence? Unintelligence? Okay, FBI intelligence. So there's something about how the FBI is involved in this too. They're watching the information, the FBI and the United States government is watching what information is being transmitted over to China, and they don't like it. Okay. Conflict. This is the Five of Wands, and I'm reading from the Light Seers Tarot, by the way. This is probably because I'm placing it on top of the Hanged person in reverse. This is probably going to not just bring conflict at home, but also bring conflict with China, for instance. They're not going to, and with ByteDance, of course, but they're not going to, I don't feel like the Chinese government is necessarily going to show its hand yet. But when the conflict reaches a certain point, it's going to become a sticking point, a sore point of contention for both the United States and China. You've got the moon landing on top of the Two of Cups in reverse. And that's definitely about secrets, not seeing stuff clearly, lies being spread around about the platform, and how useful it can be. It's educational. It's good for the children. And for the people who aren't aware. And I keep coming back to naive, emotionally naive. For the people who want to stay blissfully ignorant, and ignorant for the people who just flat out don't know. It feels like there's some serious lies being circulated about how beneficial the platform is versus how harmful it is. 10 of Cups, and it lands on top of the Ace of Pentacles. Okay, so it feels like politicians are seeing this as an opportunity to make families happier who might have been oppressed by the child abuse patterns being circulated on TikTok. There's something about the connection between parents and children that might be assisted by letting go of the platform. Like as if TikTok is like negatively influencing children's relationship with their parents and vice versa. Like parents might be picking up bad parenting tactics from TikTok because it's popular. It feels like TikTok might be good at circulating less than useful, even harmful stuff for not just children, but for parents too. And I wonder if the FBI isn't seeing how there's some really harmful things that parents see and imitate with their own children without thinking. We're going to take 3 from the bottom. This is the Wheel of Fortune, and it's upright. This is about time. This is about money as well. But in this case, I'm feeling it's much more about time and about bringing in good luck for us, a good turn of events for us if we can get rid of this platform. It's not just for us in general, it's specifically for the children. Kids have come up a whole lot more than I really expected for this. 9 of Wands is about creating a defense mechanism against, a defense mechanism, possibly using artificial intelligence to some degree to block TikTok to the point that it is unusable for most Americans. You will have those hyper-intelligent Americans who find their way around anything, right? Like hacker groups, for instance. But I don't know that even with a VPN that this platform is necessarily going to be available to the average American. And there I keep scratching my nose. Definitely there's something coming through about I wonder if there isn't some truth, with the nose alerting me. I'm wondering if there isn't like a great deal of truth to do with this. And that we're going to be working together to make the internet a little bit of a safer place and a little bit of a healthier place for children and parents. I've said for years that you wouldn't send your children out onto a busy-ass highway to go play. So why do parents just allow their children to run like crazy on the internet in places that they shouldn't be? I absolutely feel like children don't belong on the internet. There used to be all kinds of laws and protections put in place for children's television back in the 90s when I was watching children's TV. And I feel like the internet is still in many ways the wild, wild west in terms of what's appropriate for children to watch and what isn't. And it just feels like algorithms tell people what to spit out in order to get the most views, but not in terms of what's healthiest for children, okay? I'm going to pull up my cards. I've got one more question to ask, and then we'll wrap up. So this is interesting. I shuffled my Lenormand cards to answer, should people actually be using the platform? And I'm getting another not only am I getting a resounding no, especially if you have children or have children in your life. Not only that, I got almost all the same cards, even after having shuffled my Lenormand cards I've gotten almost all of the same cards when it comes to this particular reading as I did in the 9-card spread. Heart, child, animus, or man, crossroad, scythe, cross, and ring. The ring is the one different new card for this spread. Right away, heart and ring is about a commitment to love. A commitment to two-facedness? Not necessarily. A commitment to stomping out deception. Okay. So, the people who are making the choice to ban this, Joe Biden included, are committed to clearing up any deceptive understandings that we have of TikTok. And they may not necessarily share this with us now, but in years down the road, when Joe Biden isn't president anymore, or possibly even sooner, I don't know, we might see what was actually going on. There might be data actually released about why this was a problem. Maybe not everything will be released because the FBI and the United States government can be pretty secretive, but we're going to know better years later why this was banned as a platform. Child and cross are once again together. This is a huge burden on children, so if you care about children, you won't use the platform. And I understand and appreciate that there are a lot of people who make their money from TikTok. Their business is partly on TikTok. That's how they reach their audience. This is about boycotting a platform that is genuinely harmful to children. And I'm being shown that, is it Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube all have their own version of short clips that rival what TikTok has. It might be a sacrifice to slowly move your audience over into another platform that also has short clips, but it will be worth it in order to start to promote the healthier well-being of children in general. Decreasing the popularity of this platform is key to making sure that fewer children are hurt, and that a message is sent to the authorities who are siphoning up this data about American children that'll send a message to them that we don't appreciate this and we do stand together in order to protect a group that cannot protect itself. Children cannot protect themselves. They rely on people who choose to be aware. They rely on adults to keep them safe. And I genuinely feel like that's the energy that at least Joe Biden is acting on. He's got information that we don't necessarily have that says you need to do something about this, even if you don't talk about why necessarily you're doing it, at least in explicit detail. So that's it for this reading. I think we've answered our question about why it is actually being banned, whether it's actually harmful, and I guess I was kind of surprised. I thought that the government was kind of making a big deal out of nothing. Based on what I've seen here, my mind has been changed. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and if this banning of TikTok affects you, I hope that things get better for you. Take care.